by pursuing your dreams, you can accomplish sometimes great things and things that other people will tell you that aren't achievable, but in fact they are. Arthur C. Clarke once said that if you had a technology that was advanced enough, it would be indistinguishable from magic. People that are in the drone community, in power generation, when they look at this, they just shake their heads and they say, well, this can't possibly work. Yeah, but it does, and there it is, and you can see it, touch it, and feel it for yourself. We're doing things with this drone that other big companies could only dream of. This drone can take off and land from virtually anywhere, carry a higher payload, and fly longer than any other drone in its class, and provide very valuable medical aid or search and rescue operations that other drones can't provide. When we unveiled the drone last year, we wanted to really use it as a symbol to show that we're transforming from a patch company to a technology company. It's not vertical takeoff and landing today. We're always going to sell patches. That's going to be the core of who we are. It's always going to be part of our identity. But we're migrating into other areas to expand on our opportunities. We have to remain very forward-thinking in looking at new technology, how we can integrate it into what we're doing, invest money in all of these things, and expand our support systems for our community so we can have security for the future. I really think that's what it's about.
You plow an unbelievable amount of money back into the business. By definition, an entrepreneur has to do that, right? This is not about, oh, let me go buy my 9th house, right? It's, at all for you, is it? It's about, this business is just getting started. What, a year or 2 or 3, we talked about building to $1 billion together, right?
Right.
And then 1 billion households. But the bottom line is, this is $1 billion company coming at us fast, isn't it? I mean, this is going places. So people who are joining now, you think this is exciting. Well, hold on to your hat. New products coming. I mean, there's a product you and I know about that's going to set the world on fire.
Yeah.
And so where this is going, again, I tend to be focusing on the future a little bit here because I think that's what keeps people here to a great degree. They realize, goodness gracious, look what he's doing now. Look what life was going now. Oh my goodness. Wow, I can't wait. I got to stay. I can't go, right? I mean, it's that whole thing going on here, isn't it?
It's staggering, the amount of time and money that you have to put into research to create new technology. Drone market is unbelievably competitive. We have companies like Lockheed, Northrop, Amazon, FedEx that are dumping tens of millions of dollars and more into drone development. I think U.S. Department of Defense spends $5-6 billion a year annually on drone development. So this is not a trivial matter. So when you're a small little company, in comparison, and you have a much smaller budget, the idea that you're going to develop tech that is going to surpass what these big companies are doing is laughable to most of the world. And that's okay. That's part of the fun of it, in the sense that when you accomplish your goal and you're able to develop something that no one else has ever developed, and the experts that look at it tell you that, which they have, it's incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly fun. And then all of a sudden, the world is full of possibilities. And you say, I can change the world with this and help people in the process.
I keep feeling parallels between brand partners and what you do. The dynamic early on with LifeWave, you were laughed at. You were not taken seriously.
Right.
You were, what's he talking about, right? I mean, that was a reality for you as you started your business, right? A brand partner who gets in the business new, starts talking about a patch, doesn't necessarily know exactly what to say. They're laughed at, but it's a process to kind of figure out, okay, well, how do I do this? What really should I be focusing on? What's the right way to go about this? But you got to move through that because others have done it. Why not you? But there is that whole dynamic where you have to have that ability as a creative person, as an entrepreneur, as a futurist, a visionary, to I don't care if you're laughing at me.
Right.
I know something you don't know. It's like that, isn't it?
It's like living in a parallel dimension, you know. Thank God I love Star Trek because it's very, very strange going between those worlds where on one hand people are saying, wow, you know, this is amazing. On the other hand, you know, people are saying, you're stupid, you don't know what you're talking about. And so you just have to have, you know, this internal belief that, okay, regardless of what these people think, I know what I have, and I just need to keep pushing forward. When you have to fight for success, when you have to fight for doing something that you believe in, and that thing turns out helping people in some very, very dramatic ways, you look back and you say, I'm so grateful that I overcome those challenges. I'm grateful for the challenges because it made me who I am today. And that's unbelievably rewarding. With the patch technology, we accomplish things that no other company was able to accomplish. And the same thing is true about the drone. So we're going to be forging a new path forward for our community with new technology that's life-changing, that's world-changing, and we have an unbelievably great future ahead of us. And I'm more excited now about the future of LifeWave than ever before.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of our LifeWave family, please help us welcome to the stage founder, CEO, and inventor of the LifeWave technology, David Schmidt.
How many of you were here last year to see the unveiling of the drone? And for those of you that weren't here, that's exactly why you want to be at convention, because we always bring surprises with us, and of course this year has not been an exception. And I would probably have to say there might be one or two other surprises coming still. We're not done yet. We're not done yet. I love you too. Although, I have to tell you, I'm in a serious relationship. I'm married to a wonderful woman, and I love her with all my heart, so it's gonna just have to be amicable, and just a friendly thing. But what I love about our LifeWave community is that all of you bring hope to others. And that means that all of us working together can be a force for good in this world when there's so much hate and there's so much opposition. We started this program because we had been, since 2005, making donations to organizations like the Red Cross, Convoy of Hope, and making independent donations to LifeWave brand partners around the world to help those in need. And during this process, on the one hand, I felt really great that we were offering hope, we were offering aid, financial assistance, patches, but during this process, I was rather frustrated because it always took so much time to get this much needed money, medical aid, food, water to people that were suffering and they needed the relief now. So the concept started several years ago with myself and my son, and we began to think about what if we created new technology where we could be the ones that were responding to an event like a hurricane, like the fires in Maui, for example, that we could have a drone that would surpass anything else that had existed before and we could be the first responders. So we actually just started this more like a hobby. And then as we developed the technology and all of the right people showed up, because this has definitely been a team effort, as all the right people showed up, it became quickly evident that this was something really special. And we were doing things that no other company in the world had ever achieved before. So I think to finish out the interview, since we did the unveiling of the drone last year, I'd like you to welcome out again our head of special projects, Mr. Jim Caldwell. So, Jim, you've gotten the opportunity to see what we've been doing with the drone up close and personal. You've visited our facility. We have now today a 7,000 square foot hangar where we do this development. We have a very, very large piece of property that we've built out, and we even have our own runway and our own mini airport that we built out for this project. So we're taking it very seriously.
Taking it very seriously. Well, you know, one thing that occurs to me as you were kind of leading up to this moment is, you know, obviously this is a company that is all about no limits, right? And if there ever was someone, you know, as a role model that displays the fact that indeed there are no limits, think about the creativity that leads to this, that has so many implications for so many people on a global basis. So, David Schmidt, incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, Jim, actually, this is a really great example where no matter what type of dream you have, if it's something inside of you, if it's a path that God wants you to take, if it's God's will in your life, you should pursue it, even though there's those obstacles in place. I'm not an aeronautical engineer.
Right.
I'm not formally trained as an engineer, but I had this specific concept, and everything fell into place.
It actually makes no sense to me that you would be in this incredible business that is LifeWave, and then you just quietly go over here and come up with drone technology that the billion-dollar companies can't match. It's unbelievable. Right?
It only makes sense, or doesn't make sense, if you're not thinking about the future. So we have to continue to evolve. That's why we're evolving into a technology company instead of just staying as a patch company, because we want to continue to expand the opportunities that we offer. So one of the comments that I made last year when we did this unveiling is that the technology that's in the drone, the power generation technology that we've been able to create and innovate and turn into a reality that gives the drone some of its remarkable characteristics. The first use in real world is humanitarian. So we can provide aid to those in need. But it's going to go much,
Right.
much farther beyond that. I think what I would say is that wouldn't get me in trouble too much. I don't want to spoil it too much. But I think what I would say is that we need to be thinking about the dynamics in the world, the threats to our freedom. How are we going to protect our health, protect our food supply, protect our energy supply? So the goals that we're setting with this is to use the power generation technology that's in the drone as a test bed for real life, and then take that technology and bring it into the network and let people have it for personal independence.
I've been known to say to you that I look upon it as like the LifeWave ecosystem, right? And since David's out 10 years in front of us, right? He's thinking way ahead.
I thought it was 20. 10 is
Okay.
okay. I don't mind 10.
You'll take 10. But, I've always said, and I've said to some people here, and we've talked about we're just getting started. You ain't seen nothing yet. Watch out. We talked about a product that nobody knows about. It's going to set the world on fire. And he went, yeah. I mean, there is stuff coming because of the nature of how David thinks that, you're assured of incredible opportunities. And those that are not in the business yet, when you talk about a drone, they're going to say, a drone? Well, now there's a logic to everything he does. No, I'm going to take the power plant from the drone and drop it into this product and that product in the future that has a meaning to all of us in growing a business. And the story that we can tell about LifeWave, unbelievable.
Yeah, there's so much potential for the future with that. Jim, I realized we should probably talk a little bit about the capabilities of the drone.
Okay.
And why they're so very far-reaching.
Well, yeah, you mean like what it can actually do?
What it can actually do.
Remember, the Lockheeds, the FedExes, the Amazons can't do it. So, for instance, how far can this thing fly?
Yeah, so since we were here last year, we only had a fixed wing model. And by the way, you could probably get a little bit of feel for the scale. But when we talk about drones, most people are familiar with these small quadcopters or radio-controlled aircraft. This drone is a proper aircraft, and it has a 15-foot wingspan. That's this first model. The next one that we have on the drawing board has a 21-foot wingspan, and that'll be capable of carrying about 600 pounds or so of supplies.
Unbelievable.
That one is in the works. But this drone that we have, either the VTOL or the fixed wing.
Which means vertical takeoff and landing.
Right.
Right.
And so we're trying a number of different things. So with the VTOL, with the fixed wing, we have we've built in some new technology into it, so we can take off in a distance of about 350 feet or so unloaded. So that gives us access to every airport and small airfield in the world.
Right.
And of course, with VTOL, we can take off and land anywhere. So let's say you have a hurricane that goes through the Caribbean. We could land on the beach and deliver supplies. We could do search and rescue, any of those type of operations. And we expect, because we've done it in the lab, that we're going to break the world record for drone flight in this class at more than 40 hours of flight time.
Woo!
Yeah.
And the significance of that, you've mentioned in the past, this ability to go out somewhere, search and rescue, and to loiter, stay in the area, run the grid for over a day, 40 hours, you can be out there a very long time, and normal drones can't come close.
Right. Yeah.
So this is life and death in terms of being able to be out there and find somebody in distress.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea is, we'd have a fleet of these. And of course, we would work with organizations like the Coast Guard and different governments around the world. And you just put the drones up into the air. They fly in a grid pattern back and forth. And of course, they have sensors on them. They have thermal imaging, cameras, and other sensors. And so they can be looking for people lost at sea. So the ability to stay in the air for almost 2 days is of an enormous advantage. That's obviously very, very tight window for people when they're in that type of circumstance. So every hour counts. So not having to go back and refuel, but stay in the air, communicate to ground control is an enormous advantage.
And he said drones, plural, right? So there's going to be, at some point, multiple drones, multiple regions, with appropriate staff to support, so that when you get the call from the Red Crosses of the world or Convoys of Hopes or whomever, you're going to be able to say, okay, where do you need it? When? Okay, I'll get back to you in a half hour, and you alert the gang and say, let's go.
Yeah, we've had any number of interesting people that have approached us to offer support. And basically, with these drones, with this type of aircraft, you want to get at least 300 hours of flight time during testing. And then, unfortunately, you have to build a drone and destroy it because you have to know what type of winds that it will take, what type of crashes it can sustain, and so forth. And so we're looking at all different new ways of building composites so that the aircraft will be very, very light, yet very, very strong. So the numbers are pretty impressive because in some of the drones, we're using traditional carbon fiber or fiberglass, but I invented a nanotechnology foam.
Of course you did.
That is exceptionally strong and light. So this is going to go into one of the versions of the drone. But essentially, this today gives us a dry weight of about 185 pounds for the drone, but yet it can still carry over 200 pounds of payload. And of course, then you add the fuel, and it brings the weight up further. So that's one of the advantages of the Delta Wing flying wing platform. And we're using it to its best advantage.
And I guess it all, when we circle back, why, the why of this project, right? You've got multiple reasons, but at its core, you thought, hey, I could make something to help people in a way that's significant. And that's one of your main missions personally with the company as the leader, making sure that we all remember there's those in need and we can help. The more success we have, the more important it is that we step up, right, and do more.
Yeah, I think this is really a great example. Each of you have dreams, you have goals and objectives, and there's so many people in life that will tell you you can't do it, you're not smart enough, you don't have the formal education, you don't have enough money, and you should never let those things stand in your way. If there's something that you hold dear in your heart and you want to pursue it, you should. And this is such a great example of that.
Yeah.
Well, Jim, I think we've covered quite a bit. And I think what we want to do now is talk a little bit more about how we're going to use this drone in practical, real-world circumstances. So I want to thank you for being such an important part of documenting this project and helping to bring all of that part together.
My pleasure, David, of course.
Thank you, Jim.
You
Jim
bet.
Caldwell, everybody.
Thank you. All right.
This next gentleman that is going to join me here on stage, I've known him since 2004, and he's become a dear friend. We had our first convention in Las Vegas in 2005. It was a fantastic event as a brand new company. And this gentleman approached me and said, oh, there's just been a hurricane off the coast of Florida. Would you like to donate money to it? And our first year in business, we did about 17 million US dollars, which was very, very good for a new company starting out. And I started thinking about this idea about philanthropy and giving back. Once you have a successful company, there's probably an obligation to do that. So I agreed to make a donation for a relief effort for the victims of the hurricane in Florida. And we haven't stopped ever since that. This gentleman has been instrumental in creating donations to the Military Order of the Purple Heart and making donations to veterans of the United States who put their lives on the line every day so that we can have the freedoms that we enjoy and that we desperately need to protect. And for those people that don't recognize the efforts of any military at protecting its citizens, we need to honor these people when they're putting their lives in jeopardy for us, so we can have events like this. So that said, I would like you to give a very warm welcome to our LifeWave Ambassador for Philanthropy, Mr. Thomas Burke. So,
Hello, Lifeway.
so Thomas, I think the first thing I would start off saying is that you look pretty good for a guy that was in a life-threatening car accident.
Well, thank you, David. That's very flattering, and I owe it to why I'm able to walk out here on stage is because I've been privileged to be able to try one of David's new inventions. Thank you.
Without saying very much, I think I'd say right after, let's back up just a second.
Okay.
You were in this debilitating car accident. You had damaged your upper and lower back. A doctor was ready to take you into surgery, and you and I met at a very nice Italian restaurant.
Yep.
And I patched you after dinner.
You did.
And we patched carnosine, actually, along the spine. How'd you do with that?
I did great with carnosine. I was amazed, and I immediately said, David, why haven't I been using these all these years, carnosine? But I tried it every once in a while, but no, it helped tremendously, along with every other patch.
Yeah, sometimes, I guess this is just to say, normally we might patch with Ice Wave, glutathione, X39, Eon for pain relief. In this specific case, we applied a carnosine patch to the back of his neck where the pain was, and it went from like a 10 down to a 2 in just a few minutes, right?
Exactly.
But you walked in, of course, you've been helping along with any number of different humanitarian programs. And just so we can finish that off, you came in, you're having a problem with your knee as a result of the car accident. And I said, okay, stay right here. I've got something I want you to try. And so you tried this, and I had to take a conference call, and I came back an hour later, and what happened?
Well, I was able to get up from the table where before from sitting. In an hour's time, this new invention, I couldn't believe it. I said, David, I couldn't walk without having the cane. And I couldn't get up without using the cane. But I got straight up from the table and the chair, and I started walking around the office. And I said, what in the world is this? I mean, I've been with David for so long, I know what he's capable of, but I just couldn't believe what this did for me, really. Do you mind if I sit down? Okay.
Okay. So, Thomas, let's talk for a minute about humanitarian relief.
Yes.
Let's talk a minute about it. Let's talk about the Military Order of the Purple Heart. You and I have done many events now for our vets and to help those in need. Why don't you put that in your own words?
Well, yes, thank you, David. It's something very dear to my heart. I'm from a military family. But back in 2000, I believe it was 2012, we had been involved with the military to some sort. But it was difficult to get in through the VA. For those of you who remember, all the way back to 2006 and 7, Dr. Steve Haldeweyer, he and I traveled to different places around the country with the VA hospitals and what have you. And I have to tell this one short story. We went into this one VA hospital. We were demonstrating before 8 different physicians at the VA, and every one of them had a problem with pain. As a matter of fact, one of the surgeons said, I have to perform an operation as a procedure in less than an hour. I think I'm going to have to cancel it. Dr. Steve got up, come right over here, and he patched him. At that time, we only had Ice Wave and energy patches. He was up and around. He was ready to dance within about 2 minutes. He could not believe it. So from that point forward, we went on trying to get products to veterans and their families. But in 2012, as I mentioned, I was honored to be able to present to the Military Order of the Purple Heart to a state commander. And prior to that, he said, I just want you to know that I've been told about you, and you're a snake oil salesman. And I said, really? Okay, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. And I said, are you in pain? He says, well, yes, I have pain, but I have about 20 vets here that are in terrible, terrible pain. And if you can take them out of pain, I might believe you. Well, he brought them up one by one and one by one. Each and every one of them were taken out of pain. And the last gentleman that had come up was in he only had, he lost a leg in one of the conflicts that we had. And he couldn't walk at all, even with he had pain through the prosthetic that he had. He said, you can't help me. Nobody can help me. The VA can't help me. No one. And I said, well, let's see. I placed a patch on the prosthetic. About 30 seconds later, he started looking at me, looking around the room. He started walking. People were in awe. And he says, I'm going dancing tonight. True story.
So Thomas, on the Red Cross,
Yeah.
since we want to show our thanks and appreciation, you've been so very kind at taking your time at facilitating these donations to the Red Cross and to others. Maybe you could speak to that for a minute.
Well, there's, in a couple of moments, you're going to be hearing from somebody from the Red Cross that probably tell it better than I can in their story. But they are a wonderful organization, and they do perform a lot of services that a lot of people do not know about right here at home on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be a disaster, although they are fantastic at disasters. And throughout the years, it's been great working with them on most occasions. And I can't say enough about the gentleman that's going to be introduced to you. And we just hit it off here several years ago. And it's just been a pleasure to work with not only the Red Cross, but so many of the other organizations associated with them. And then, of course, David Schmidt. And the reason I say that about David Schmidt is that since 2005, that time in Las Vegas at the convention, our first convention. How many of you were here in 2005? Not too many. I know a few in the front row that I know, and some of them that they've been up on stage. But in 2005, when this started, David said, Thomas, I believe in what you're doing and what we're doing. And I want you to know that any donation here that the Lifeway family might contribute, Lifeway is going to match in addition to what Lifeway was going to give. Since that time, whether it be with the Red Cross or any other organization, David, you've never, ever said no. Yeah.
Well, Thomas, thank you for those very kind comments and sentiments. I think now what we want to do is bring out one of our guests. So everyone, one more round of applause for Mr. Thomas Burke. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much. And of course, we can't facilitate donations to organizations like the Red Cross or Convoy of Hope or to all of you without some help. So in the case of the Red Cross, we have had a close partnership with their organization here in Florida, also at the national level, and they help us to help people in need, whether or not it be in Germany, Japan, the US, and other countries. So I would like you to give now a warm LifeWave welcome to Mr. Tony Robinson from the Red Cross. Thank you, Tony. Great to see you. So you can tell Tony is a well-built football player guy. So if there's anyone here that was thinking about rushing the stage, now is the time to do it. I know, Tony, you've got my back as always.
Always have. Good morning, LifeWave. How are you this morning? I feel like the kid that was invited to stay over for dinner. And her mom is a really good cook, because this is a great environment to be in. A great environment.
Well, Tony, we're blessed to have you, and we're so very appreciative to have a working relationship with the Red Cross and everything that you guys are doing to provide medical aid and supplies to those people that are on the front lines. And given that you've been working, of course, out of Florida, could you take just a minute and describe, what is it like when we get hit by a hurricane like last year down in Fort Myers, and it's total devastation, and you're the one that has to be organizing the relief effort? Just so everyone gets an idea, there's 20,000 homes that are destroyed. What's that operation like?
Yeah, it's something that it's not easy. It's obviously a lot of things that have to be done in preparation beforehand. So what I can say is, as an organization, operationally, we're very solid around getting things done ahead of time so that things are in place once the storm actually hits, so that individuals who are impacted by the storm can be helped immediately. The Red Cross, the mission of the Red Cross is prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and generous donors. And LifeWave is just that, a partner with the American Red Cross. Before I go on and talk a little bit more about that, I have one thing that I've been dying to do. Can you turn the house lights up for a second? So, I want everyone to stand up. And I want you to stand up for two reasons. One, I want to go back and tell everybody I had everyone standing up on their feet because I gave a great presentation. And the second is I need ocular proof. So I'm going to do a selfie. I had them all on their feet, people. I had them all on their feet. I will do that. To answer David's question about LifeWave is that not just nationally, but internationally, the American Red Cross provides support, provides resources, and provides information throughout the world to be able to support people in their worst times. And one of the things that we want to do is that I'm proud to say is that LifeWave is a significant part of what we do, not just here in the States, but also internationally. A lot of people don't realize there's a lot of organizations that do a lot of things, a lot of good things throughout the world. But I'm proud to say that for every dollar that we bring in or that we raise through the American Red Cross, 91 cents of that dollar goes directly to the mission. And that's pretty amazing. It really is, because there's a lot of organizations that do a lot differently when it comes to how they use their resources and things of that nature, but we're very proud of that particular situation. One of the things that David mentioned earlier was, over time, hurricanes have gotten much much worse over the last few years. Over the last 10 years, disasters have increased to the point where they've gotten worse, about 70% over what has happened. So we have to, as an organization, not only be able to put things in place to be able to take care of those things, but to also get people back on their feet, to get them back going, to get that area back to where they can be able to be better at what they're doing. A lot of people think of the American Red Cross as just as for disasters, but like David and like Thomas talked earlier, a lot of other things that we do around blood collection around the world, around home fires, home fire protection, things of that nature to help prevent things before they happen. You know, one of the things that my dad always told me is attitude is a direct reflection of leadership. And Lifeway's leadership is absolutely amazing. And as I look in this room, they are a direct reflection of what you've built.
Thank
so
you.
I want you guys to give David and yourselves a huge hand.
Thank you. I think in wrapping this up, what I'd say is we are so much more than a patch company. We're so much more than a technology company. What all of you represent is hope. And I'm going to quote Jor-El of Krypton here for a moment. Because embodied in hope is the fundamental belief that all people have the potential to be a force for good. And thanks to all of you, we have so much more goodness in the world today. Thank you all.
Thank you all, and thank you all for being a partner as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.